Hello, good morning. Season's greetings to everyone, and I welcome you to another video tutorial. Well, the first instrument I will be including into our watch list for this week is the GBPUSD. And in this video, we are going to be taking a technical dissection of the current market structure, where we are going to be identifying a very simple setup that we can use to guide our trading activity for this week. And since this is going to be a follow-up detail to my previous analysis, I would like us to have a quick review of the key moments that we had during the last week's trading session, so that we can have an idea of where we are coming from, so that we can possibly anticipate a better trading opportunity for the week. So talking about last week's trading session, these were the commentaries I shared during the course of the week. So at the beginning of the week, we saw how price action started on a bearish note, resuming around the 1.23320 level, breaking down both the 1.235 and that bullish trend line we identified on the higher time frame. And because of the situation here, we were actually thinking that price action will continue that bearish tone, probably the breakdown of that support line here at the 1.22750 level, or probably price will come back to either retest the structure here on the 1.235 or the bullish trend line that was broken earlier a week before last week, before the wave of bearish momentum will happen. But that didn't happen as expected here, as we saw how price action continued to find higher highs, breaking back above the structures that we were expecting selling opportunities to continue to the upside. And one thing I laid emphasis on during my YouTube live session on Monday and Tuesday was the fact that despite the continued bullish momentum here, a breakout of the 1.24200 level will welcome a buy opportunity, as this would have negated all the sell positions around that resistant line. And this was exactly what happened, as we saw price action broke out of that structure, triggered our buy position, and price action continued to find higher highs. Though we were quite late to join the bullish momentum last week, but thank goodness we were able to make some couple of pips in the second wave of the bullish momentum. So it got to this point here where we started seeing a consolidation phase between the 1.252 and the 1.24700 level. And you all know what we look out for whenever we have this kind of simple channel. We want to see price action either break out of the resistance line or the support line for a trading opportunity. So with our orders placed at both ends, we expected price to trigger one of the positions. So we continue to monitor price action here till it broke down the support line to trigger our first sell position for the week. Then I told us all here that we should secure all sell positions, as we expect more trading opportunities. But unfortunately, the sell momentum didn't last long, as we saw price action climb back to the upside, taking us out of that position at the worst case scenario of break even. We still expect price will still go to the downside here, and look at what we have. We saw price action move to the downside. We had two positions running, and we begin to see another wave of bullish momentum happen, which took us out of that position again. And then we anticipated price will still continue to the downside or upside with the 1.24900 level, and that bearish trend line we identified here as a yardstick to guide our trading activity. And look at what we have here. We saw price action continued. We had two positions, and it was on this note that we ended the last week's trading session with a bearish momentum. So this was how last week's trading session went by. If you do want to look at this with your own self, I will be dropping the link to the commentaries in the description box of this current video. And if you are watching this from my YouTube channel, you will be seeing it at the top right hand side of your screen right now. So with that being said, here we shall be diving right back into the current market structure so that we can see how we want to be taking advantage of any trading opportunity this week. And the first thing I will do is to look at the daily time frame, which actually gives us an holistic point of view of what is really going on in this market. So there's nothing much to say here, as whatever you're seeing in your screen right now is a fallout from my previous analysis on this video. So if you want to have a detailed explanation into how we got to this point, you might want to watch my previous analysis. I will be dropping the link in the description box. So diving right into the current structure, we can see here that price action has been caught within a channel between the 1.24500 level and the 1.18 area since the month of December last year, to give us a clue that there is an indecision in this market. So for the sake of this, for next week's analysis, what I will be doing right now is to zoom into the current structure. That is, we want to see how last week's trading session went by around that resistant line at the 1.24500 area. Now, if we zoom into the current structure, you will see vividly here that we had a bullish engulfing candle that broke out of that resistant line at the beginning of the week, and during the later part of the week we saw how price action dropped back into the downside. So at this point in time, what are we going to be looking out for? Well, we should first of all take into consideration the breakout of that resistant line, which from a theoretical perspective, whenever we have a breakout of a key structure like this, we expect that price will at one point in time come back to retest structure in anticipation of another wave of bullish momentum. So this is one of the perspectives we are going to be taking into consideration while we look at what is really happening here on a lower time frame. Then another thing that could happen here is that the breakout of that 1.2450 level could turn out to be a false breakout, where price action retracement could drop back below the 1.245. We have buyers find it difficult to break back above the 1.245 level, where we'll begin to see some selling pressure here on our lower time frame to incite another wave of bearish momentum, and at that point we would have seen price action respecting that resistant line one more time. So these are the things we are going to be looking at on a much more lower time frame, where I've been able to identify a simple setup that can project the potential trading opportunity for this week. But before I go into the details on the lower time frame, I would like us to have a fundamental perspective into what is going on, what our expectations, what majority in the market will be expecting for the week. And that will lead us into checking the macroeconomic calendar, as we shall be focusing on events that will be affecting both the GBPUSD and the pound sterling and the US dollar. And one thing about the macroeconomic event is the fact that it serves as a catalyst that brings liquidity into the market. So whatever technical positions we have identified, we still need some liquidity to drive price movement in order for us to make some profit off the market. So right here we are on the economic calendar, and I was able to spool out a series of macroeconomic events coming up this week. And the first one that is affecting the current pair we are looking at is coming up on Wednesday, April 12th, and that is the Consumer Price Index. And this is a measure of price movement by the comparison between the retail prices of a representative shopping basket of goods and services. So whatever this means is that it's a significant economic indicator that gives us a clue into the price comparison between the retail prices and of every goods and services in the economy. And we have the previous data here at 0.5% with an expectation of 0.4% on this one. Then on that same day, we have the Bank of England Governor's Bailey speech. Will definitely be delivering some policy statements that will give us some signal into the health of the UK's economy too. Then on that same day, we have the FOMC minute, which is released by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, and this will be a clear guide to the future of the interest rate policy, which everyone definitely will be looking forward to. Then on Friday, we have the retail sales, which is a measure of the total receipts of retail stores. So it tells us how much people are spending in the US economy, and it's also a very good indicator for the health of the US economy too as well. Then we also have the consumer sentiment index, which shows a picture of whether or not consumers are willing to spend or not in the market. So these are events we are going to be looking forward to this week, and obviously we shall be seeing the reflection of this anticipation on the chart as price action. So going back into the chart right now, I will be diving right into the 4 hours time frame, where I told you earlier I have a simple setup here which I want us to use to guide our trading activity for the week. So what I did here was to pull out the price action from the first week of the month of March, and one thing we can see here is the fact that price has been very, very bullish in this market. And to further emphasize the strength of the buyers in this market, you can see after connecting the series of higher lows here, we have this resultant bullish trend line, which is something that emphasizes the bullish momentum in this market. So now, with this being said here, I will be zooming into what has been happening here in the last couple of weeks. And one thing we saw last week was price action testing the 1.25200 level, which happens to be the first time price will get to this point in a couple of months now. And one thing we saw as soon as price got into that level, we begin to see some selling pressure resume around that area to indicate some strength in the sellers at that particular point in time. And one thing I want us to be using as a key level to guide our trading activity for this week is the 1.2420 level, which happened to be a level which has been a major determinant of price action for the last time, I think 7 to 8 days now. We saw how this level was a selling niche at one point. We saw attempt by sellers to negate bullish attempt here before the breakout of that structure happened here last week. And since price action tested this level, we have seen a retracement back into structure, where we have been seeing how buyers has been trying to negate all selling attempts at this particular point in time. Though we had a little breakout here on Friday, testing the bullish trend line one more time, we saw price action drop back into that key structure, and it actually closed around that area. So with this information we have here, you would agree with me that we are at a critical point in the market here, where whatever happens around this area during the early hours of the week will determine how price action will be playing out for the week. So now the question here is, will the bullish trend line here be respected one more time to incite another wave of bullish momentum? Well, that will be determined if price action breaks out, retests the bearish trend line that I was able to identify here. So what I'm simply saying here is, if price action continues with the buy pressure, breaking out of the bearish trend line, retest of structure giving me further confirmation with buy pressure resuming above the structure on my lower time frame, then we might be in for a buying opportunity, and we look out for more opportunities to add more position to our existing trade. And then the other situation here is, if price action breaches that bullish trend line, that is, breaks down the bullish trend line, and if possible, selling pressure resumes right below the structure on our lower time frame, hereby respecting that bearish trend line to incite another wave of bearish momentum to the downside, then we will be getting ready to sell when we sight this kind of setup around this area. Now you will see how important the 1.24200 level is going to be a major determinant of price action for next week. So join me during the comment section during the early hours of the week after we monitor how participants in this market will be reacting to the structure during the early hours of the week, after which I will be giving you an update on what my expectations are in the comment section of this video. I hope this video has been of immense help in making your personal decision on the GBPUSD for this week, and if it truly did, kindly support this project by clicking the like button. You would also want to follow me on my TradingView platform at Dark Sherry so that you can be part of the daily commentaries I normally share in the comment section of all of my videos. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the comment section on Monday as we get prepared for the new week. Do have a wonderful evening, everyone. Happy Easter once again, and bye-bye.